In the early 1980s, as the American automotive industry faced fuel crises and evolving customer demands, the idea of an all-wheel drive passenger car seemed almost revolutionary. The market was still dominated by rear-wheel drive domestic cars, which were becoming increasingly worse made throughout the past few years, and the increasing influx of front-wheel drive imports that offered very tempting fuel savings and competitive price points. Amidst this changing landscape, the American Motors Corporation was struggling badly to right the sinking ship that was their production car sales numbers. They were getting demolished by the Big Three, and their positioning as an affordable manufacturer was being threatened by the variety of imports coming across the ocean. And as a result, AMC had to think outside the box and take a daring risk in order to carve out their own unique market segment in hopes of saving their skin. And what they would go on to create was not only just the most interesting and quirky car of the decade, but also a vehicle that spawned an entire class of vehicles 20 years later. This car was the four-wheel drive AMC Eagle SX4. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the AMC Eagle SX4, it's essential to understand that it's pretty much a groundbreaking vehicle in the world of the automobile. Introduced in 1981, the Eagle SX4 was really the pioneer in the crossover segment, blending the somewhat sleek design of the AMC Spirit economy car with advanced four-wheel drive technology and slightly elevated ground clearance. This innovative combination created a vehicle that could confidently navigate both city streets and fairly rough terrain. Part of the reason that this concoction was even created was because of the oil crisis in the late 1970s, severely hampering the sales of AMC's Jeep line because of their poor fuel economy, largely due to their weight, inefficient engines, and the aerodynamic properties of a toaster. By introducing a crossover with four-wheel drive capabilities, AMC aimed to capitalize on a unique market niche. The Eagle SX4's versatility promised to attract a broad customer base, from city dwellers needing reliable winter transportation to people who lived in harsh climates that wanted a car that could still be reliable with these poor weather conditions. And AMC, albeit strapped for cash, did have two aces up their sleeve at the time, one being their ownership of Jeep, which gave them access to some of the brightest four-wheel drive engineers and production systems. And the second thing was AMC's attitude that has always been something of a make the most of what you have. Competing against the well-funded Big Three, AMC always had to get creative, and in this case, that meant retrofitting their Jeep-style four-wheel drive suspension to an existing car to massively save on development costs. This initial all-wheel drive capable AMC idea was tested earlier on the AMC Hornet prototype that was built in conjunction with a company called FF Developments. Now, this car never reached production, but lots of the principles of this prototype study would carry over to the Eagle and Eagle SX4. Oh, and by the way, FF Developments were also the guys that helped design the all-wheel drive system for the Jensen FF. The AMC Eagle's four-wheel drive system would be called Quadratrack. Initially, it used the NP203 transfer case to help fulfill its four-wheel drive duties like most large vehicles of the day, but it soon upgraded to the NP119 transfer case, which offered better efficiency and traction benefits. This system automatically sent power to the wheels with the most grip using a viscous coupling filled with silicone-based fluid. This coupling managed the difference between wheel speeds, providing anti-skid benefits and maintaining performance across a wide temperature range. Initially, the AMC Eagle would take this new four-wheel drive system and bolt it under the AMC Concord sedan and wagon, albeit with around a 3-inch lift to be able to fit everything and give the vehicle actual capabilities to handle somewhat rough terrain. It should be noted that the Eagle was not a rock crawler or a designated off-roader by any means, but compared to a normal rear-wheel drive sedan with a low ride height and poor approach angles, the Eagle could do wonders off the pavement. The AMC Eagle first launched in 1980 with 3 variations: the coupe, wagon, and sedan, which were all based on the AMC Concord body, which was their mid-sized vehicle at the time. Sales out the gate for the Eagle were strong for this first model year, but the best and coolest version of the Eagle was yet to come. For 1981, AMC got even bolder, and that was when they released the Eagle SX4 and Eagle Camback. Instead of these being based on the mid-size Concorde, these models were based on the compact AMC Spirit economy car, which meant that these were the smallest and lightest versions to receive the four-wheel drive setup, and honestly, they are pretty outlandish. The SX4 really looks a little bit like a lifted sports car, which is something that's just so uncommon in general, it must have been really crazy to look at back in the day. The Eagle Camback shared essentially the same rear end design as the venerable AMC Gremlin, with some minor changes made to it. But that sloped back is unmistakable. Of all the Eagle vehicles, I personally do feel the SX4 was really the one to have. It had the best styling thanks to its shorter wheelbase, which helped accentuate the size of the fender flares and made the lift on it look even more extreme than the other models. The SX4 could even come with its own little rear spoiler, which looked cool for aesthetics, but probably provided next to no benefits performance-wise. Speaking of performance, the Eagle SX4 specifically was available with the General Motors Iron Duke 4-cylinder, which was regarded as possibly one of the lamest engines of all time. In the Eagle, this 151 cubic inch 4-cylinder made an abysmal 82 horsepower and was backed up by a 4-speed manual standard. Thankfully though, you could option to get the AMC 258 cubic inch inline 6, which made 110 horsepower and 210 foot-pounds of torque, which absolutely would have been the engine to choose from with the SX4, given its somewhat sporty appearance. The inline 6 was still an iron block and iron-headed motor, which featured a 2-barrel carb setup as standard, and it wasn't certainly fast at all. 0 to 60 happened in an impressive, for all the wrong reasons, 15.6 seconds, and the quarter-mile time was 20 seconds flat as tested by Car and Driver at a whopping 69 miles per hour. Yeah, so turns out the SX4 was actually unbelievably slow, but it was marketed in the period literature against the Corvette and Turbo 4 Mustangs, stating that the SX4 was the first sport machine that doesn't always need a road. Now, this is a pretty cool marketing slogan, but a sport machine may have been a bit of a stretch given the on-paper numbers. But with 22 miles per gallon standard, some off-road capabilities, and the ability to seat 4 people, journalists surprisingly didn't hate the Eagle SX4 either. If you lived in an area up north like Wisconsin, for example, and you didn't want a truck, then the Eagle would have really been your only option in terms of a vehicle that could reliably get you through whatever weather conditions were thrown at you and still have the maneuverability of a car. Because again, lots of people did not want to wield around the mass of a truck at the time, especially because lots of trucks back then weren't very well equipped, which made the Eagle SX4 and the Eagle line really in a class of its own, which was good and bad because this class itself wouldn't really get mainstream until 30-something years later. But now it's one of the most popular classes of new vehicles sold in America, all stemming from the quirky little AMC Eagle and its coolest version, the SX4. And the AMC Eagle SX4 wasn't even a bad value for money, to be honest. Given its all-wheel drive capabilities, the base model SX4 could be tested and purchased at just around $7,000 US back in 1981, which made it comparable in price to a very, very low option F-150 or a low option Camaro. And being some sort of weird hybrid between a Camaro and an F-150, that price didn't seem all that wrong, especially given the competition that existed in this market class, which was next to none. The Eagle itself lived a production life from 1980 up until 1988, when Chrysler was in the midst of their AMC buyout and takeover. Now, the wagon in the Eagle line, which was based on the Concorde, was always the best seller. The SX4, though, was only produced from 1981 through 1983, which made them pretty rare for the Eagle lineup, with just over 20,000 of them ever being made. And with AMC cars being some of the most discarded vehicles over the years in scrapyards, the Eagles, which most of them live their lives in rust-prone areas, probably have some of the worst survival rates of them all, which makes clean ones very hard to find. Luckily, these cars have not reached collector status yet, and likely never will, which means that prices on these are pretty affordable for a car that can create as many talking points as this one can. And besides, I'd much rather be seen driving around in one of these than a new crossover. But that's just me. Let me know what you think about the AMC Eagle SX4 below. Do you think it was cool? Do you think it was an absolute miss and a stupid car? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you all for watching another episode of our Rare Cars documentary series. If you enjoyed this video, we would greatly appreciate it if you could drop a like and also share this video with other enthusiasts. Also, please make sure that you are subscribed to the Rare Cars YouTube channel and smash that notification bell for more documentary style videos just like this on the world's most interesting cars. Until next time, enthusiasts.